And you know that we're not meeting anymore, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Cause like,
Yeah, yeah,
I need to say going forward, but yeah, okay.
yeah. But you had 15 years, right?
Yeah, almost 16, yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Indie Film Hub podcast. We are back with Julie Emmons today. We're talking about community building. This is a big thing that we've said over and over in our podcast, and we're happy to have her on to talk about how to build community and what the importance of it all is. So, hello, Julie. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me.
Um, so first off, I mean, just give us a little background on who you are. Not too long.
Okay. Like I said, my name is Julie Emmons, and I am the founder of what was called the Carolina Film Community. I also work in film as a casting director and sometimes producer of smaller things. Yeah, so that's my background as far as film. The big thing that I felt like I worked on the most was Carolina Film Community and just making that community there in the Charlotte area mostly, but open to both Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, I myself have been up to the Carolina Film Community. Went to go visit you guys a couple times. You had a great speaker ready. You had uh, some award-winning people that were there. You had a new films that were out. You had all kinds of stuff going on in just one meeting, and it was, and then of course all the people that meet as well. So I mean, that's a lot of programming. Was it? It's like walk us through what a typical meeting would be.
So that's basically what our typical meetings were. I think that when we started, we had a plan and a focus, and that we stayed with that. The speakers got better. The films often got better. Like you said, the award winners that happened through the years. The crowds got more more experience in what they were doing and able to help other people as they were coming in. So I'm not sure when you came, but if it was within the last several years, I'd say you probably got some of the prime stuff as we were learning, how to program and how to make the community come together.
It started that way. Oh,
That we did start exactly that way, perfectly, actually, yeah. No. We did start with the idea of, like, the speaker, the film, the networking was a big thing at the beginning. Just trying to build relationships because that's what we thought was the most important. I hate this saying because I just hate it, but it's true. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I don't completely agree with that. I think you also need to know. It should be what you know, but, it is who you know, and when you're making those connections, you're getting opportunities that you might not get otherwise. So we really focused on networking, especially in the early years, making sure that our community was growing even more than having, like, the perfect speaker.
yeah. So 15 years ago, well, I guess now it's been almost close to almost 20 years ago when you started it all. Like, what made you want to just get out there and do that?
So it was sort of like like we thumbed our nose a little bit. The incentives were gone or we just weren't getting any work. And when we realized that we were not getting any work, it was frustrating because I don't know how many film sets people are on, but when you go, you make these friendships. You're there for like 6 weeks or whatever, and then it's just over, and you weren't seeing them again for a year, maybe longer. And because you weren't seeing each other regularly, you weren't getting together, you weren't like creatively thinking about things. So we thought, well, we don't actually need you to give us films to do this. We'll make our own community. We'll make films inside our community. We'll get these budding filmmakers to start getting more expertise, and inside that we'll make film. Instead of making film come to us, we'll make film and get it out.
Yeah, love it. And then just the early days, people started coming out. Like, what was your practice of getting that out to people? And because you already had a network built and connections.
I did that. So that came up a lot from the casting, luckily, and then just other people that I was connected to, as far as other producers I'd worked with or directors, people like that, that I was able to reach out to personally and say, "Would you come and be a part of this?" The casting was a big one because I had so much in a database. I could email every person in that database and say, "This is what we're doing." And from then, it went very word of mouth. We use social media, of course. At the beginning, we used Meetup, another one, that people were finding us there. But yeah, it was a lot of word of mouth when people came and then they were telling their one friend they would see on set, "Hey, you got to come here because they're doing this every month and we can see each other regularly," and that kind of thing. So it all kind of took off pretty quick.
Yeah, when we started Film Bar, it was just me and Tim sitting at a table for the first 3 months alone until someone decided to show up finally, and um, then it just started snowballing after that. But it was took a while to get that off the ground, and I was new to the area, so I didn't know anybody. But
Yeah, that's harder for sure. I did have the advantage with the casting thing, just having so many, contacts, because, everyone wants all the actors want to make sure you have their contacts. So having that was very helpful in getting us started.
I hear you with, like, your typical work friend is, it's there for 6 weeks and then
Yeah, it's gone.
or you're solo working all the time and you don't have work
Yeah.
friends, so that was kinda part of the origination of film bars because I just wanted some friends, so it
Yeah, I think I mean, and it works. It really does. Like, I see people even now, their best friends are people that they just ran into at CFC, and that's their core group of friends now. And I love it. Like, that part of it has always spoken so much to me. Outside of whether or not you're a good filmmaker, like, are you a good friend? And did you find good friends? And I love that part of it.
yeah, so, I mean, we're a year in, we've got our first generation of people coming through, and projects are coming together, people getting to know each other. What kind of shifts did you see in the community because of that?
Um, so I weirdly enough, it made much better filmmakers, and I don't know if that's why, but I know, like, when you like the people you work with, you do a better job. You really do. And when these people were deciding for themselves, "We're gonna make this film, and we're gonna pick the people we like most to make it," it became really fun. It stopped being as much of a job, or even like a hobby. It became like a lifestyle. Like, we just make films because we love making films, and we love the people that we're making them with. And I started seeing this culture of, like, really intense relationships developing, which was amazing. Something that I don't even know that I expected at the beginning. I thought, "We'll just teach people how to be filmmakers, and we'll make film." But I really started seeing, people showing up, and these became, I mean, like, their new family and stuff. In the South, we get that a lot in church, if you live in the South, but then there's people like me, lots of people that don't go to church. So this became a good substitute for that, like, building those relationships where you don't have that kind of thing if you don't go to church or if you don't have a job in an office or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see just the just to word it differently, I've had people tell me, like, "I'm tired of working outside of our area because it's just you don't know what you're gonna get." But
Yeah.
here, you know everybody, and it's, like, it's fun, and so
Yeah, it's great. I love that. I mean, I love showing up and the person that I love working on the last one's with me again. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, let's pick up where we left off," kind of thing. I love it. It's great.
and it's easier to cheer people on too because you
Mhm.
know them, you know what they've been through and what they're doing, so, um,
Yeah. Huge support system, which is really important.
yeah. So after a few years of doing it, everyone kind of has their teams, they know who they wanna work with, and you can crew up a film in 20 minutes,
Mhm.
and, but, I mean, I'm sure at, like, year 5, what were some of your struggles there? Just trying to keep things
So
consistent or
The biggest struggle for me was finding new and fresh. Like, so once I would say year 5 was probably when it started. We stopped the forced networking because people were like, we know these people. We're tired of talking to the same people.
yeah,
And we'd have one or two kind of trickle in, but it wasn't enough to keep it fresh. And that was the thing that was like, we have great content, we have great filmmakers, we have great speakers that are coming, good films that are coming. And by that time, our incentives have come in. So people were working constantly. Just we had films coming constantly. And the biggest thing for me was like, where do we find the people that we haven't found yet? And how do we make this important to them? Because it was a good point that they made, like, you're not really networking if you're just talking to your friend. And if you're not making any more contacts, then you're not going to be able to, go any further than where you are. And so that was the biggest thing. I think five to 10 was like, we're going to reach every new person that we can find. And with so much film being there, it wasn't really that difficult. It was just the next new hurdle.
yeah. I found that we had the first gen people come through, and those were the people actively working and seeking things and, like, the go-getters, and then we're having our second gen, either they just moved here or maybe they were working so much that they didn't pay attention to community building, or they're just new. So we have, like, totally different, peels on these people, and trying to find things that were educational for the experienced person and also for the new person was kind of a stretch. So, how'd you handle some of those?
Luckily for us, the speakers that we had were very, like, I mean, there were times that it didn't. There were times they came in and they were very technical, and the new people were probably like, I don't know what they're talking about. Um, but that's the point is, like, go out there and, like, then find out, ask the questions. If you don't know the answer or what they're saying, then go find out who they are and what they do and that kind of thing. We tried to stay away from anything that was so, like, camera operating. First of all, it would take forever to explain the nuances of camera operating. So to get up in front of a bunch of people and say, "Oh, this piece does this thing," and like there was no point. But you could talk to a DP and talk about, why he films things in the way he does, or whatever that was more basic. So we tried not to ever get into like the nitty gritty. But if people wanted to, they always had access to that speaker, which opened up a whole world of things. Because a lot of times these speakers were people not just in our community; they were, you know, people in Hollywood, people, around that weren't accessible all the time. So this gave a new road to people that maybe wanted to know more past what they were learning. I guess is that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, was education always part of
Yes, we were 501(c)(3), so we were an educational organization.
okay.
So the whole idea was to make sure that people were being educated in addition to being able to, educate them, and then they could make their films, and then they could educate. The hope was always that it kept going, and it did. I mean, it really did.
So on that note, like with the 501(c)(3), we're not established, we're just a community group, so we can't get grants or anything
Mhm.
or sponsors or and that helped you with and you had a membership
Right.
and you had, other things to offer to that membership. Can you talk a little bit more on that end of things?
So we offered a membership when we started, back in 2009, and it was great because it was helping to fund, like there's just a cost. Like people would always say, like, why do we pay to get in? Like, 'cause nothing's free. Like, I'm sorry, we have websites and we have venues and things. Nothing's free. The membership ended up giving like certain perks that we would give like free tickets away to certain things with the film festival, which was in partnership with us. When we became 501(c)(3), which was a year into it, we still kept the memberships because it was community based, and so that was the community helping to fund us. But we were also able to go and ask for donations from other people and get funding that way as well. The membership worked really well up until we started feeling like, okay, in the next 5 years we're going to wind down, and then it was like, well, if you give a membership, what happens when you wind down? And so we started like, slowly coming off of that membership in the last year. Just so people didn't get screwed over more than anything. Like, give us your money and then now we don't have a community anymore. So yeah, but it worked great for all those years. For 14 and a half years, it worked amazing because people felt connected, like I'm a member of this. And like I said, there were certain perks that they would get. We'd offer discounts and different things to just the members. Yeah, and another part was, like, when with our film contest, if you were a member, your entry fee was less and that kinda thing. So there was just a lot of things, like, moving into, like, the film contest that we had, the members were the more focused, the more involved, that kinda thing. So it just gave you a spirit of ownership, I think.
How did you see attendance grow over the time?
When we had our incentives, like, the attendance and stuff was massive. I mean, we would have, nearly 200 people there. Um, when film was harder to come by, it slowed down, and that which makes sense. I mean, people aren't excited. And then we'd have some when there was no film and people were like, "We have to get there to make it was just very kind of on and off as far as attendance, but we never most of the years, we stayed, like, around 120 to 140 people. Towards the end, honestly, 2020 was a killer for us. Community in general. Um, People got very and myself included, just very comfortable with not leaving. And it was really hard to get that fire lit again. Like, "No, guys, we're open again. You can leave your house," kinda thing. And people were like, eh, I don't wanna put on shoes today." And he just and I mean, like, I still today, I'm like, "Do I really have to leave?" It's just we almost got comfortable as a country or maybe a world just not doing anything. So that was when I started seeing, like, a decline where people either were too frightened to come out, even post 2020, or they just didn't feel like it anymore. And I had a lot of people say, "Well, will you put it online?" I thought, "No, like, that's not what like, you don't build community online, not like that. We're going to do this the hard way." And I got a lot of flack for that. People were like, "Well, you could just put it online." I'm like, "I don't wanna put it online. We don't have to anymore." Um, but that was where we started seeing the decline, and that was sort of where we started saying, "Okay, maybe the community is not serving the same way as it used to. Should we pivot? Should we look at other things?" And that was sort of where we started saying, "Maybe this isn't, like, serving us in the same way. How do we serve our community differently?" And that kinda thing. So, yeah, that's where we're at now, I guess.
We started in 2021, so it was right after all that, and then it was a slow burn to build up, but we have 2,000 Facebook members,
Mhm.
but only, our attendance is generally around 20 to 30 people.
That's still really great. I mean, that's people wanting to get together, especially post 2020.
Yeah.
It was just wild. I mean, I'm talking about, like, of course, but it was just the difference in the mentality was just crazy. There were some people that were so hungry to make films, but you couldn't find your crew because nobody was coming around. And it was almost like starting over, but without the perk of not having 2020. It's just like we're starting over, but not from scratch. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Um, so with all your connections after doing this for so long, I mean, that made you a pretty good producer.
I like to think so. I love the connections that I made, and they're truly friends, which is again, that was the point. I was able to do a lot of cool stuff, make really fun, cool short films, help on commercials, things like that. I always really loved casting, and so I stuck with that mostly. But probably, I think now, like if you ask me, I don't do as much work anymore. Just there isn't any work anymore. But I'd love to get back into producing more. My personality is very much like that, and again, with the connections and that kind of thing, I think I'd love to do more producing.
What kind of, I mean, you added the festival, and what year did you guys start doing that?
Early on, I want to say 2010 or 11, we started with Made in Charlotte. Um, and it was super fun. Like even looking back now, I'm like, man, we were ahead of our time. We gave everybody we gave everybody a postcard, and they had to make a film, like, based on their postcard, and it was all Charlotte-based postcards, and we got really good stuff out of that, and I was like, "Wow, that is just wow, we really did well." And then, of course, we did some that were just over the wall amazing. Just they ended up just being really great. I would say out of everything, I'm so proud of having that in-house thing. I mean, at one point, we were like, "We're tired of people working with the same people," and we made them draw names of people, and that's who their crew was, that's who their cast was, and they just had to make it work. And even then, we got beautiful films made. So I am really proud of that part of it for sure.
Love it. But, community building takes a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time.
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
and you have to be passionate about it. We've had people come in and they're like, We'll start our own CFC." And I'm like, "All right." I don't know what to we're tired of paying. We don't wanna pay. Which, I mean, it was $10 a month.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everyone has $10 a month, but most people have $10 a month. Um, but they're like, "We don't know why we have to pay." Well, I can't pay for everything. So, we're all gonna be in this together. And so they would go start their own, but you have to really be sold out to it. And I will say, like, I was very much sold out to the idea of making this work, to to being tired all the time, to being worked all the time, to being stressed. I love the stuff that we got out of it, but it was a lot. I mean, it's a lot, and you have to have a super passion for it, and you have to really wanna work for it, or these other groups that they didn't go anywhere either, because eventually people get tired, and the free thing is funny to me because everyone's like, "We're doing it for free." Okay. Like, if you're trying to run an actual organization, you can't. You have to have money unless you're wealthy, but I don't know anyone that's that wealthy yet. I hope to one day, but
We've been fortunate so far, but it's getting to that breaking point of if we're gonna keep going, we gotta do some kind of membership, so
yeah, and let everybody sort because then there like I said, there's an ownership. Like, this is ours. This isn't just
yeah.
like roads. This is ours. And that giving that ownership to everybody was really important, I thought, and then, we had, of course, a board as a 501(c)(3), but we also had an advisory council that was made up of filmmakers, and it was like, "Where do you guys creatively think that we should be headed?" And that, again, gave ownership back into the group. So, yeah, I think that every organization gets to a point where there is no unless you have a wealthy benefactor. I wanna make sure that unless you're someone that's gonna do it for you, everybody toss in, like, it makes it easier, and nobody's better than anybody else, and everybody has a right to it just makes it easier, in my opinion.
Yeah. Had you set up a nonprofit before or
No,
no?
this is my first time. I learned so much stuff. Wow, it's not easy. Well, it's a lot easier now. This was 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And there was so much paperwork, and it's so expensive, and it's way better now. Like, it's a lot less expensive and a lot less paperwork, but it's still a pain in the butt. It's a pain in the butt. But, I mean, I know they're watching for a reason, but it's a pain. But I do suggest it in something like what we're doing because of the fact that you can get the grants and you can get we never even went after grants, to be honest. There's not a lot of overhead. So I was never trying to get and none of us were paid, so it's not like we were trying to get rich off it. Um, we just wanted to give the best experience that we could give and be able to, like, give out award money and stuff like that. And our local film companies were like, "Yeah, we wanna be a part of that. We wanna give out the best actor award, or we want to help fund that." So I got very fortunate with, people in our community saying, "Here's, whatever it is, $500 for the award for this," or whatever it is. So I think that we could not have done what we did without being a 501(c)(3) for sure.
Yeah.
It would've been harder at least.
So, getting into I mean, did you attend every meeting?
Yes, I did every meeting. Yeah. My board was like, "You've gotta take a break," and I'm way too neurotic for that. I would just be sitting at home like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?"
So I mean, you after meeting so many people, because you went to every meeting, what was your main pitch to them? Like, what would you say to them? Because I say, like, "Don't tell me you do everything, because yeah, you
My
just
main pi my main pitch for what? What do you mean?
I just know that when I meet a new person, they're like, "Hey," they always want you to hire them or something like that. It's like, "I don't have to work for you," but,
Yeah.
um, don't tell me you do everything. Tell me, pick 1 or 2 things, that way I can think of you instead of
Oh, okay.
then also keep showing up, because that's gonna be your best bet.
That's the only way I'll remember you. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, once it got to a certain point, really struggled to remember, like, every face to every name, and I felt terrible, but they only had 1 name, which was mine, and I was trying to learn hundreds.
Yes.
And so I would have to say things like, "Well, what are you doing what are you doing in film?" And if they had to answer, "Well, what are you wanting to do by being here? What are you hoping this will give you, like, to do more in film?" And a lot of times I would still have to make notes, especially if it was someone that was looking for help, like, "Will you help me find X?" I'd have to say, "All right, well, hold on. That guy does this. Your name is this." And I'd have to make connections like that because I would not remember. It got heavy there for a while, just trying to make all the connections. But fortunately, like I said, we had a lot of filmmakers in there that were kinda taking a little bit of that burden, like walking up and saying, "I'm this person and I am a director. You're what? Oh, let's talk about making your career," or whatever. So, I was more of a facilitator and I didn't have to know every single piece, which was nice.
Yeah. Well, it's just yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, when it was getting into the hundreds and that many people were trying and then I would feel terrible because I'm a very, like, social people person, and I used to remember everybody. And they'd say, "No, we talked about this." I'm like, "You're gonna have to elaborate. I'm so sorry, but, remember we talked." I'm like, "Oh, that's right, that's right. Yes, I do."
Like, what were some of the benefits you saw just from building the community? I mean, you had mentioned some of them before, but if there was anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, out like, again, I go back to the biggest thing for me was, like, the relationships, but, I mean, just the thing that was meant for is they were getting work. That's the truth. They were getting experience working on their own films or each other's films, and when it came time to it, we were doing things like trainings and things like that, so when it came time to go be a PA, well, these people knew because they had been paying attention, and they were like, "I wanna do that. I wanna get involved. Let's get at the ground level. I'll go PA." They were able to say exactly what they were supposed to do. And then they knew somebody else on the film or on the show or on the whatever, which would help guide them. So these people were learning, and then we were actually getting a workforce, which helps us get more film. So it became secular, in that way, which I thought was really important. So not only were we building community for relationships, we were building community for, like, life, work, getting out there, doing things, and that was a lot of people that came through CFC do it full time now, and they started off just going, I like film, I think it'd be cool to be in a film, I think," and this is their full-time job, this is what they do.
I was gonna say in that time, you probably saw some people come from nothing to
It was awesome, actually, it was some of them went from, like, I don't know, or a lot of what I saw I saw several times is parents that brought their kids because their kids wanna be actresses or actors or whatever, and then they got so involved, they either became producers or they went and became, like, location scouts or PAs or things like that because they just loved, like, that world so much, they wanted to be a part of it as well. I loved that. I thought it was so cool.
we talked about keeping members engaged and prevent burnout for them.
And I think that would be come down to, like, the speakers was the biggest part of keeping members engaged. You get a speaker that no one cares about, like, "This is my dad, he likes Westerns," no one's coming. But, you get, like I mean, we've had many, many cool speakers, but, like Russ Blackwell from Banshee, he, like, left the set and came there and spoke. And so it was a hot right now, everyone's watching Banshee, people are on Banshee, and one of the leads is showing up to do a meeting. I mean, that was people really wanted to be there for that.
What was
Um
your pitch to them? How'd you get them to be a part of all that?
there's a lot of actors out there that really love community. They love the idea of, like, independent film. They love the idea of of course, they have to work where the money is, but their heart is still where a lot of us start. Like, we actually really love film. And so when you're able to talk to them and say, "This is what I'm doing," they say, "Man, I love that. Yes, I'd love to be a part of talking to them. I'd love to be a part of meeting your group." And with Russ, like, he lived here. He had to be here all the time. Why not know his own community? And it was cool. It was like one of the bigger, just exciting, "Oh my god, this," because I mean, it's very recognizable, obviously, we're all watching the show, you know? So that part was really cool. Just having very quality speakers, so whether they have a famous face or they are just really good at what they do, we've had Emmy winners come in and no, you don't know their face because they're cameramen, but they can talk about what it takes to get to that level and that kinda thing. We had the mayor come before, things I mean, it's pretty cool, and you get this vast difference in people, and it appeals to everybody across the board. I think that's the best way to get these people to stay involved was even if I don't care what the mayor, I still wanna know what she has to say because it's important to me because of the film incentives and what are you gonna help Charlotte do and that kinda thing. I might not care about camera work, I don't know, but you won an Emmy? Heck yeah, I wanna know how did you won 4? I really wanna know what you did differently then. It's just that kind of thing.
On the opposite end of that, I'm sure you had some arguments or disputes in the group too that you had to figure out and manage, like, okay, this person should not be with this person, and
A lot of times with adults, thankfully, they'll self-regulate. I've had people come and complain, and they're like, "Well, I don't want this person to be around me," or "I don't." Then just stay on the other side of the room, Or they'd say, "Will you talk to this person because they've upset me or they've upset my child?" And you have to go and say, "Hey, that was kind of ugly to say." A lot of it sadly came down to I wanted to be in their film and they didn't put me in their film, or I wanted to work on their crew and they didn't pick me, things like that. And it's like, uh, you know, I will say over those decade and a half plus, very, very few times. It was most of the time it was self-regulate. People had problems with me sometimes and how I handled things and so to, deal with those. But inside the group, either it fixed itself and one person went, "I'm out," and they left, or they just sit on opposite sides of the room or, whatever. So luckily, very, very few times that we ever have to deal with that.
so, I mean, 15 years of experience doing this, I mean, how kind of a broad open question, but, like, the human connection and the power behind it, like, what would you
Oh gosh. I don't know, elaborate. What would I what?
what would you say about the power of human connection and just being able
I
to
think there's nothing I think if 2020 taught us anything, it is that is one of the most important things that we have. You really being with someone and being able to have that, like, that physical I say physical relationship, that's not what I mean, but just that, like, the building of that is just there's nothing like it. You asked me, like, how well, what was your pitch, these people or whatever, and the pitch is that we're human. I mean, that really is it. Like, "Hey, remember how much you loved starting out and doing this? Well, we love that too and want you to talk to us about how much you loved it too." And there's a piece of that human nature of just being like everybody else that I think was the most important. A lot of people came in feeling I had many people say, "Well, I don't feel like I fit." And I would say, why do you feel that way?" Because I don't know as much as everybody else. And I would say that's you don't have to ever worry about that because this is a mix of that. And this is here for you to connect to them. And they did. It was really almost magical. Like I don't want to take away the work that was in it, but it really was just watching these kind of awkward, nervous, right out of college, I don't know what to do kind of people meeting truly powerful people in the industry and then going, "Man, I want that." And then this like connection happening and it was really amazing. And I don't think we could have done it virtually. I think it absolutely has to be in person because of the way that the connections happened. I'm not saying you can't have a virtual community. People do, they have I don't know, my kids play online, so they have friends, online, but it's not the same, and I think that connection there is what helped us grow. It's definitely what made it fulfilling for me is, I was as excited as everyone else to show up every month. I wanted to see those people and have that connection.
yeah. Did you find, for yourself, just having the weight of the community behind you or just having the evidence that I really put for something other than myself, that doors are opening for you, that you had access to people you never had access before, or
I did, so I've always been like a very social, like, go-getter,
yeah.
so that wasn't a big jump for me, but yeah, certainly once it started taking off and we started getting, like, a name for ourselves and, we were like, I, became friends with film commissioners and, people that were in higher positions. At the time, I don't know that it ever occurred to me because it was just like, "Well, I'm friends with that person," but taking a step back, you could say, "Well, no, I mean, that did open many doors, and not even for me personally, because I was already sort of working in the industry, but it opened doors for us as an organization. It opened doors for us to, like, again, get even better, bigger speakers and more education and more donors, things like that. But for me personally, even, I met many people that were able to say, "Hey, I'm working on this next film. Do you wanna be a part of it?" And I would say, "Absolutely," just like everybody else. So, not that it didn't give me a leg up necessarily, I still had to know what I was doing, but it did give me those contacts, which helped, and I hope helped a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, I find if just in my experience, saying I'm doing something for the community is a lot goes a lot farther than saying I'm doing something for myself.
Oh, for sure, and it feels better. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
like, of course, you wanna take care of yourself, but, like, I hope I don't sound arrogant, but it felt empowering a little bit. When I left some of those meetings, I was like, "Damn, like, we just killed it." Like, wow, and the energy was, like, palpable. It was just so buzzy, like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." It was such a high, and and then you wanna do it again. It was so people would talk about it for, weeks after and couldn't wait to get back. And I mean, particularly with, like, our contest, we had huge red carpet galas, and it was big and huge, and people loved it, and they, were going through pictures and showing it. It went on for weeks till the next time, and then it went on for weeks again, and it just kept this energy going that I couldn't you couldn't make in a jar and hand out. It was so organic, and it was amazing. So, yeah, it was very empowering in that way to know that sometimes I'd stand back and I would truly, like, literally stand back and just watch and go, "Wow, we what the heck? We made something amazing. This is amazing."
Love
So,
it. Yeah, it's really cool. So, after 15 years of doing this,
mhm.
you had a hard decision
I did, yeah, it was a tough one.
to wrap it all up.
Yeah, it's, everything has an end, and, we had talked about it for, again, 2020, ugh, but, we had talked about post that just, okay, we're kind of not s we're not getting the same energy, we're not getting the same response. Could it have gone on? Probably. Could we have changed it and maybe done something different? Probably. But it's a long time to do something. And I think that I was just like, I think I'm ready for the next adventure. And this when I used Seinfeld is terrible, but it ended so badly. And I didn't want to be that. I wanted to end where people still felt very passionate and happy and with all the good thoughts. I didn't want the relationship to go on so long that people hated it. And I felt like that's what we did. We said, "Okay, it's still alive, but it's time to retire, I guess. Not die, but retire." And, yeah, it was tough. I mean, still some days I'm like, "Did I do the right thing?" But, I think I did. I think it was a good time to just wrap it up.
Do you think you coulda handed it off to someone or to have someone that cares that much about it to
I'll be honest, there's so much fear there of, like, handing it off. Not that someone couldn't do it, but I'm okay, I'm a control freak, everyone knows that. It would been really hard for me to watch someone take that, and then if they had taken it in a direction that, like, I wasn't happy, like, where I'd be like, "Well, no, that's not what we were," I would have really struggled. So when it was time for someone to come, and they do have a group very similar to ours that runs now, I went to them and I said, "I will give you as many contacts as you need, I will help, but I don't want this to be the same." Like, I wanna be able to close the door and close the chapter and have had a really beautiful story and not have a sequel that maybe I don't like. Like, yeah, I want a different story over here and let me have this story that I've worked for.
Blake
And
and Austin's group?
is that what?
Blake and Austin's group?
No, it's, through the Independent Picture House.
Okay.
They do one there. So, and it's great. I mean, they're doing a great job, and they're reaching way more people than we're not way more people, but a whole different group
Yeah.
than we're coming with us, which is really cool. Um Yeah, I think I needed my story to just have an end, and I struggled with if it kept going, how I would feel about it, and I know that kinda sounds a little selfish, but then I'm sort of like, "But you put a lot of work into it, maybe you can just have it your way."
And now you're doing something really fun. You don't have to include it in the podcast if you want to, but because it's not film related, but it's r
Yeah, I totally switched
cool.
gears. I've always been an animal lover, and, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna" I don't do anything small, so I decided to start my own squirrel rescue, with a couple of friends of mine. So the 3 of us, we now have a squirrel rescue called Nutty by Nature. We just launched officially, but I've been doing squirrel rescue for about 5 years, a little more than 5 years now. So,
Have
Yeah.
fun.
It is, I mean, it's crazy fun, but and it's crazy, and I don't sleep anymore because I have infants now again, but, it's amazing, and I
Yeah.
would love to incorporate the 2 things, like, I'm actually gonna meet friends next week, and because 'cause we're like, "How do we make a promo for Nutty by Nature, but using all of our film expertise?" And I'm like, "This is brilliant."
Yeah, you gotta get up every 2 to 4 hours to feed the babies and
We
yeah.
do. We have a 2-week-old squirrel right now. It's been a really slow squirrel year. I know how it sounds, but it's been more like skunks and possums this year. But so we have one 2-week-old. Her name is Jasmine, and she's every 3 hours. I still get up with her. But because it was so slow with squirrels, I had 2 people reach out to me with infant kittens, and they were like, "Have you ever done this?" And I was like, "I haven't, but it can't be that hard." So we have 2. We have a 3-week-old kitten and a 7-week-old kitten. So it's a madhouse around here.
I got to do a video with Izzy's Pond because I like wildlife as well, that they are a rescue and release
Mhm.
or rehab and release, for rabies vector species, so
That's
pond.
so brilliant. Where are they located?
Down in Abbeville.
Okay, I've never heard of them. I have to go look them up. That's so smart to have one that's specific to rabies vectors because people are terrified of that, and it's like, well, they have to be rescued too. Yeah, and then when we mix them, it gets a little people get a little worried, but I mean, I personally don't, but it's a thing. That's amazing. I love that they do that. I'll have to go look them up.
It's really cool. Love it. Well, anything else you'd like to say on the matter?
No, I mean, I wish you guys like the best asbestos. I personally think that you might want to look more into becoming more of an organization only because there will be a cap on what you can do what you're doing now.
Mhm.
And it'll
Right.
wear you out if you don't have someone behind you. So you can put a board behind you and you guys can it will help to have that support, behind you guys. And also with the fun, the funding gets easier. I don't know what the art scene is like specifically where you are, but I mean probably okay-ish. And the companies around you would probably really be excited to help you guys do that. So you can take it with a grain of salt, but my suggestion would be, to try to organize, make it more of an organization if you're wanting to continue to grow past, what you're doing now, because it would be really hard to continue wi- without money. I'll just say it. We all skip around it, but
Yeah.
money helps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm feeling it, and, that's probably where we're gonna move to the next year.
Yeah, well, let me know. I'm happy to help with, whatever it is that you guys need if you have questions or whatever. But I definitely think that as you progress, you'll see a bigger surge in growth if you do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning into this episode. I think episode 11. So we're starting this next season. And if you want to watch the rest of them, you can find them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You're probably already there listening to this, but we'll also be on YouTube podcasts as well. So check us out, Indie Film Hub. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See you guys in the next one.